Imagine you are absolutely certain you are being watched every day. People spying on you as you walk down the street, hidden cameras in your house and at work, that everywhere you went, someone was watching you. Now, your friends say there's no evidence of this, and your family find no cameras in the house. And you know that logically there's no reason why anyone would want to survey you. And yet you have this strong, unshakable feeling of certainty that it is happening. This is what someone with schizophrenia suffering delusions might experience every day. No matter what logic, evidence, or reason suggests, the feeling of conviction remains strong. It is this feeling of conviction that my PhD research is all about. Now let's bring this back to an everyday example. Have you ever had the experience where you write down a word and it just doesn't look right to you? You know, you check the spelling and it is correct, but it just doesn't feel right. Well, this is an example of how we use a feeling state as a proxy for truth. And while this is a common example of how it might go wrong, we think there might be more severe disruptions of this in people with schizophrenia. So, studying the feeling of truth is a tricky thing. But there is a thing called the truth effect, whereby repetition of a statement leads to an increase in the belief in the truth of that statement, regardless of whether it's actually true or not. We wanted to know, are people who are at higher risk of schizophrenia or who are more delusion-prone more susceptible to this effect? And also, because delusions tend to contain common themes, like the theme of persecution in the example I gave earlier, we wanted to know if statements with delusion-relevant content was more prone to this effect of repetition on belief. So I asked 100 participants to rate the truth of a series of claims, half of which were delusion-relevant, so for example relating to government surveillance or online tracking of data, and half that were neutral, such as history and geography facts. Half of these were repeated once in the experiment, and at the end we compared ratings between delusion-relevant and neutral, repeated and non-repeated items. Now, interestingly, what I found was that people generally rated delusion-relevant statements as more true than neutral statements overall, and this effect was even more prominent among people at risk of schizophrenia. However, we found no evidence for a greater effect of repetition on belief for delusion-relevant statements, and we think this might be because people rated delusion-relevant statements as surprisingly high before they were even repeated, particularly in those at risk. Understanding inappropriate levels of conviction is an important endeavour in clinical research because it's the defining feature of delusions, and it's the reason they're so difficult to treat. If we can better understand processes underlying these feelings of truth and conviction through studies like mine, we have greater hopes at finding ways to successfully treat the distressing, destructive, and often isolating delusional beliefs affecting the lives of people with severe mental illness like schizophrenia every day. Thank you.